'tis not yet over. Nay, 'tis but the beginning. An armada doth stand against us, and against the Dutch there is scarce a chance. But we are the Honourable East India Trading Company. Prevail we shall, and yield we shall not.
In the year of our Lord, 1600, upon the 31st day of December, by the grace of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth I, was founded the English East India Company. By royal decree, it was granted dominion o'er the trade with the distant East Indies, holding sway with might and purpose. From this day forth, the company stood as England's hand upon the seas, bound by duty, fortune, and the will of the crown.
In the days of old, when the winds of fortune blew strong, and the seas called to those with hearts of iron, there arose a private enterprise, granted dominion over all English trade with the fabled East. With sails unfurled and hearts set upon glory, they ventured forth in search of spices, silks, and treasures beyond measure, from the vast lands of the Indian subcontinent and far-flung shores beyond. At the outset, the Honourable Company dealt in trade alone, establishing footholds in distant ports, Surat, Madras, and Bombay, where merchants bartered and ships laden with riches made their return. Yet, as the years wore on, so too did their thirst for power grow. No longer content with mere commerce, they wove themselves into the very fabric of these lands, forging alliances with princes, raising armies in their name, and seizing dominion where once they sought only trade. Thus, the English East India Company became not merely a merchant's venture, but a force that would shape the destiny of empires, wielding both sword and coin with equal measure, and in time, carving its name into the annals of history.
The exclusive trade privileges granted to the East India Company have undoubtedly served as an instrument of wealth accumulation for those at its helm. Yet in truth, they have functioned as a means of impoverishment for the broader public, whose interests are sacrificed for the benefit of a select few. The government of an exclusive company of merchants is, perhaps, the worst of all governments for any country whatever. In the early 1600s, Queen Elizabeth I and later King James I focused on expanding English influence in the Americas and the Caribbean, competing with the powerful Iberian empires of Spain and Portugal, which still dominated the South Atlantic. Rather than investing state resources in eastern expansion, England pursued privatized imperialism by establishing the English East India Company in 1600. This allowed the British Crown to expand into Asia's lucrative markets without direct financial burdens or political risks. Following the Battle of Plassey in 1757, Robert Clive's victory over the Nawab of Bengal secured control over Bengal's vast resources, leading to the rapid growth of the military. By the late 1700s, the English East India Company's army was estimated at 100,000 to 150,000 troops, consisting of British officers, Indian sepoys, artillery, and cavalry units, with funds borrowed from the Bank of England. In the early 1800s, troop numbers peaked at 260,000. By the early 19th century, historians and economists estimate that the company's revenues and economic influence accounted for nearly half of Britain's GDP. In its early years, the English East India Company operated 8 sailing ships annually, but by 1787, this number had increased to 38 per year. Meanwhile, after the American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, King George III's loss of the American colonies shifted British focus towards expansion in Asia and beyond. Unable to forgo the immense revenue from the East, the Crown abolished the company's trade monopoly through the Charter Act of 1813. ending its exclusive control except for the tea trade and commerce with China.
How dare they? Those ungrateful rebels in America have torn my empire asunder, and now, to my horror, I find the British East India Company swelling in power, fattened by the riches of Bengal and beyond, acting as if it were a kingdom unto itself. They wield armies, control vast revenues, and dictate policy, while I, the sovereign king of Great Britain, am left to watch my own dominions slip through my fingers. This was never the intention of the crown when my illustrious predecessor, Queen Elizabeth, granted them their charter. No, they were meant to serve, to enrich the realm, not to rival it. Their unchecked ambition has corrupted their purpose, and I will not stand idly by as they grow mightier than the crown itself. The time has come to reclaim what is rightfully mine. This insidious monopoly must be shattered. I will revoke that infernal charter and bring the East under the firm rule of the crown, as it should have been from the beginning.
If that blasted king thinks he can simply seize our wealth and walk away unchallenged, he must be a fool. I say we withdraw our profits entirely and seek opportunities elsewhere in the New World, in America.
Aye.
Aye.